Namaste. Good evening. This is Dr. Aparna. I am an Ayurvedic psychotherapist. I am a passionate Ayurveda and psychotherapy infopreneur, medical writer, and I am a neuropsychology and psycho-oncology educator. So, in my pursuit to address, promote, and propagate Ayurveda and psychotherapy globally, I come up with discussions on Ayurveda and mental health and psychotherapy and related aspects. So, today's topic of discussion is Yoga Pratyahara. So, I've already done one or two sessions on Yoga Pratyahara, but I am frequently asked about the questions on Yoga Pratyahara. So, today's topic is role of Yoga Pratyahara in Ayurvedic psychotherapy. So, when I talk of Yoga Pratyahara, it is important to know what is the term Pratyahara. The term Pratyahara is a Sanskrit term that originates from the ancient Indian philosophy of yoga. So, it is composed of two words Prati, which means against or away. Ahara means food or input. In this case, it is input. So, in the context of yoga, Pratyahara is often translated as withdrawal of the senses. That means, or control of the senses. So, Prati against, and the Ahara is the input. So, this is the Pratyahara is the fifth limb of the eightfold path of yoga. And it is, it was outlined by the sage Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. So, if I have to simplify Pratyahara, it is the withdrawing of our senses from negative environmental influences. It could be withdrawing from negative impressions, negative associations, negative food, negative habits, all these things, negative lifestyle preferences. So, Pratyahara is basically the withdrawing of our senses from the negative environmental influences. So, this covers what we nourish our bodies with. So, that is food, and what we fuel our thoughts with, that is impression, and who we spend our time with, association. So it is very important how we nourish our bodies, with what we are nourishing our bodies, the food, that means the diet, the nutrition, and what we fuel our thoughts with, that is the impressions, the beliefs, and our thoughts and our behaviors. So, and who we spend our time with, this is also very much important, our associations. People say you are the person who, the five people you spend the time with. So, the eightfold path of yoga, also known as Ashtanga Yoga, provides a comprehensive guide for spiritual and personal development. So, you might have heard of Ashtanga Yoga. So, this is the fifth limb of the eightfold path of yoga. Pratyahara is the fifth limb. So, Pratyahara, being the fifth limb, it serves as a crucial bridge between the external practices. See, there are external practices in yoga and there are internal practices in yoga. So, the external practices are asana, pranayama, and the internal practices are dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So, it is essentially the process of turning one's attention inward and freeing oneself from the constant distractions and influences of the external world. So, Pratyahara, what is it? Uh, defined. How is it defined? So Patanjali defines it as, isolation of the mind from the sense organs. That means Pratyahara involves consciously drawing the mind's focus away from the external sensory stimuli, or detaching from the senses and redirecting one's attention to inwards, attention inwards towards the inner self. That means it could be, drawing consciously drawing the mind's focus, away from the social media, away from the external validation, away from the materialistic possessions, all these things. So, and away from the bad habits, away from the bad nutrition, all of this is also involved here. When we talk of consciously drawing the mind's focus away from the external senses, sensory stimuli, we are talking of everything. So there is a shloka for it which says that swa vishaya, स्वविषय संप्रयोगे चित्तस्वरूपानु कारै इंद्रियाणां प्रत्याहारः. That means the withdrawal of the senses from the external objects, indriyanam pratyahara. So, and their subsequent convergence into the mind itself is pratyahara. So as I said, this is mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. This shloka is from chapter 2 and verse 54. So it says, it drawing your one's, redirecting one's attention inwards towards the inner self. So swa vishaya samprayoge chitta swarupanukaraihi. So to draw, the convergence into the mind itself. So, for example, here, see, Pratyahara marks a crucial transition, as I said, between the external aspects of yoga, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and the internal aspects, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So, Pratyahara is a practice that helps individuals control the influence of external stimuli on their mind and maintain a state of mental equilibrium. So, why are we practicing, Pratyahara? Because we have to maintain a state of mental equilibrium. So, for example, imagine yourself sitting in a quiet room trying to meditate. Suddenly, you hear a loud noise from outside, and your attention gets drawn to it. So instead of allowing your mind to wander and get disturbed by the external noise, you consciously decide to withdraw your senses from the auditory experience. That is what you do in meditation. When you call, when you are trying to meditate, you are, trying to, instead of allowing your mind to wander and get disturbed by the external noise, you consciously decide to withdraw your senses from the auditory experience. So you acknowledge the sound, but you choose not to get entangled in it. So this process of consciously pulling your senses away, from the external stimuli and recentering your focuses on your breath, on the mantra, or on the object of meditation is an example of pratyahara. So we can also think that instead of getting drawn to the social media attraction, recentering your focus into your goals, your professional purpose, your personal purpose, and your family. So this also is a example of pratyahara. So similarly, pratyahara can be practiced with other senses such as sight, taste, smell, and touch. So, for instance, when you are eating a delicious meal, instead of being carried away by the flavors and indulging in thoughts about the taste, you practice pratyahara by withdrawing the senses of taste and directing your awareness towards the act of eating itself. So, mindful eating. So, the texture of the food, the sensation it provides, all these things instead of just the taste of it. So, and then by mastering pratyahara, individuals can gradually gain better control over their mind and senses. So, leading them closer to the ultimate state of self realization and spiritual awakening, which is also called as samadhi. So, in our everyday life, our senses like sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell are constantly bombarded with stimuli from the external environment. So, these sensory inputs have a powerful impact on our thoughts, on our emotions, and behaviors. So often leading to restlessness and imbalance. So, Pratyahara teaches us to consciously withdraw the senses from their usual preoccupation with the external world and redirecting our focus inward. So, by practicing Pratyahara, a person cultivates a heightened sense of self awareness and gains control over the mind. So, this internalization of the senses prepares the practitioner for the deeper states of concentration. The deeper states of concentration is dharana, meditation, dhyana. Ultimately, it leads to the state of samadhi where the practitioner experiences unity with the object and meditation and transcends the limitations of the self. See, Pratyahara is not about cutting off or suppressing the senses, but it is about developing a balanced and non reactive relationship with them. It does not mean that you cut off from the world, it is just to have a balanced and non reactive relationship. So, this involves observing the sensory experiences without being attached or driven by them. This process allows the practitioner to break free from the external world's hold and discover a deeper connection with their true self. So this is pratyahara is also can also be used, in mental health illnesses. By pratyahara, it is like a form of therapy. It is a form of therapy, in when there is a mental illness, for a disorder, or for an abnormality. So pratyahara is an essential step in the practice of yoga, so guiding us towards, as I said, self awareness, control over the mind, and ultimately the spiritual growth. So, through the withdrawal of the senses, one gains the inner stillness. To be still, to become unaffected by the external stimuli or the external response. One way you stop seeking validation. You have more mental clarity. You have a foundation for higher meditative states. Ultimately, this leading to self realization and a deeper understanding of the nature of existence. So, in the next session, we'll talk about how to practice pratyahara and what are the benefits of pratyahara, where and all we can apply applications of Pratyahara. Will talk about it in the next session. So for today, um, we are. I'm gonna end the session for today. And thanks for staying tuned. If you have any queries, if you have any suggestion, any thoughts on the subjects or key takeaways, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you. Namaste.